Julianne Harper Sterling stood in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at two pink lines on a pregnancy test, her hand trembling as her husband's text message glowed on her phone. "I'm leaving you. I found someone who actually makes me happy. Don't try to contact me." She read it 3 times, certain she'd misunderstood. But the words didn't change. Her free hand moved to her still flat stomach, where a life barely 6 weeks old was growing. And the other gripped her phone so hard the screen cracked spiderweb patterns across Maxwell's text. He was leaving her. He'd found someone else. And he didn't know about the baby. The bathroom lights were too bright, the marble too cold beneath her bare feet, and Julianne felt the world tilt sideways as she sank to the floor, pregnancy test in one hand, shattered phone in the other. They'd been married for 4 years. Together for 7. She'd loved Maxwell Sterling since she was 23 years old, had believed in him when he was building Sterling Global from nothing, had stood beside him through every risk and victory. And now, at 30, pregnant with his child, she was being discarded via text message. Her phone buzzed again. A different number. "Mrs. Sterling, this is Rebecca from Mr. Sterling's legal team. Divorce papers will be couriered to you tomorrow. Mr. Sterling requests you vacate the penthouse within 30 days. He'll be generous in the settlement." Generous. The word tasted like poison. Julianne's vision blurred with tears that she refused to let fall. Not yet. Not while she was still on the bathroom floor of a home that was apparently no longer hers. She pulled herself up slowly, catching her reflection in the mirror. She looked exactly like she had that morning. Dark hair, steady eyes, the face Maxwell had once said he wanted to wake up to for the rest of his life. Except now that face looked haunted. Julianne walked out of the bathroom, through the penthouse that overlooked Central Park, past the wedding photos Maxwell hadn't bothered to take down before abandoning her, and into his office. She sat at his desk, rich mahogany, obscenely expensive, and opened his laptop. He hadn't even logged out. His email was open, and right there, threaded through the last 3 months, was the entire story of her husband's betrayal. "Can't wait until we're finally free to be together. Paris will be perfect for our wedding. I've never felt this way about anyone. Julianne is comfortable, safe. You're alive, electric. The lawyers are handling everything. She won't fight it. She never fights for anything." The woman's name was Vanessa, 26. An influencer Maxwell had met at a charity gala. Beautiful, ambitious, and according to these emails, very much aware that Maxwell was married. Julianne scrolled through months of lies. Business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Late nights that were hotel rooms. Anniversary flowers he'd sent her while simultaneously booking flights to Milan with Vanessa. The final email was from yesterday. "Boarding now. See you in Paris, my love. Can't believe in 3 days you'll be my husband." Paris. 3 days. Maxwell was going to marry this woman in Paris while his actual wife sat in New York, pregnant and discarded. What would you do if your partner abandoned you at your most vulnerable moment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. Julianne closed the laptop carefully, her hands remarkably steady now. Then she picked up her personal phone, the one Maxwell didn't monitor, didn't know about, and made a call. "David? It's Julianne. I need you to activate Protocol Omega." Her lawyer's voice was sharp with concern. "Are you certain? Once we execute, there's no going back." Julianne looked down at the pregnancy test still clutched in her hand, then out the window at the Manhattan skyline her husband thought he owned. "I'm certain," she said. "Maxwell doesn't know this, but I want him to learn it the hard way. I'm not the comfortable, safe woman he can discard. I'm the woman who's been quietly owning his entire world." Because here's what Maxwell Sterling never knew about his wife. Before she became Mrs. Sterling, Julianne Harper was an equity analyst who turned her graduate school thesis into a private equity empire. The quiet, supportive wife Maxwell took for granted controlled 60% of Sterling Global through shell companies and strategic investments. Maxwell thought he'd built his empire. Julianne had funded it, protected it, and quietly owned it. And now she was going to take it all back. "Execute everything," she told David. "I want him to come home from his Paris wedding to nothing." She hung up and placed one hand on her stomach. "It's just you and me now, baby," she whispered. "And we're going to be just fine." Outside, the city glittered with possibilities. Maxwell Sterling had no idea what was coming, but he was about to learn what it cost to abandon Julianne Harper. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. I am Mr. Zaha. Thanks for tuning in today. A kind words from a man who has seen it all. Marriage are not mostly bed of roses. Sometime you need more of. More of what? Can't say. Continue watching, and you will surely know what to do in situations like this. Kindly hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So let's get started. 3 months earlier, Julian had noticed the changes slowly, the way you notice seasons shifting. One day it's summer, and then suddenly you're shivering in autumn wind wondering when it got cold. Maxwell started working later, coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't hers, checking his phone compulsively, angling the screen away when she walked by. Just work stress, he'd say when she asked. The Singapore expansion is killing me. She'd believed him because she wanted to. Because they'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, and she thought maybe this year would be different. Maybe a child would bring back the man who used to leave her love notes in the coffee maker. That man had disappeared somewhere between their 2nd and 3rd anniversary. The charity gala where Maxwell met Vanessa was in September. Julianne remembered the night clearly. She'd worn an emerald dress Maxwell barely noticed, spent 3 hours making small talk with donors while her husband networked. She'd seen him talking to a young woman with platinum hair and a dress that cost more than charity. Had watched the woman laugh at something Maxwell said, touch his arm just a second too long. Who's that? Julianne had asked later in the car. Who's who? The blonde. The one you were talking to by the bar. Oh, some influencer. Vanessa something. She's interested in investing. Maxwell had shrugged, already checking his phone. Why? No reason. That was the moment, Julianne would later realize. That was when the lie began, and she'd been too trusting to see it. 2 months earlier, the distance grows. I need to go to London for 2 weeks, Maxwell announced over breakfast in October. Major deal closing. Julianne looked up from her coffee. 2 weeks. Can I come with you? I could visit the British Museum. We could. It's wall-to-wall meetings, Jules. You'd be bored. He kissed her forehead, perfunctory, distant. Besides, someone needs to hold down the fort here. She'd nodded, swallowed her disappointment, told herself this was temporary. All marriages went through phases. Maxwell left for London on a Tuesday. Julianne found the Milano hotel receipt in his suit pocket on Wednesday. London. Milan. Same thing, apparently, if you were lying. She'd confronted him when he returned, shown him the receipt. He'd had an answer ready, so ready it was clearly rehearsed. Surprise side trip. Was going to take you for our anniversary next month. Wanted to scout the perfect hotel. His smile was smooth as glass. You ruined the surprise, babe. And she believed him. Had actually felt guilty for snooping. That night, Maxwell made love to her with a tenderness that felt like apology. She'd fallen asleep thinking maybe she'd been paranoid. Maybe everything was fine. She didn't know that Vanessa had been in Milan too. Didn't know her husband was living a double life, so seamlessly he could lie to her face and sleep beside her without conscience. 1 month earlier, the final betrayal. November brought the positive pregnancy test and Maxwell's text message on the same day. A cosmic cruelty Julianne would never forget. She'd taken the test that morning, hands shaking with hope. 2 years of trying, of fertility appointments and crushing disappointments. And finally, 2 pink lines. She'd planned the perfect reveal. Dinner reservations at the restaurant where Maxwell proposed. A tiny pair of baby shoes wrapped in tissue paper. The pregnancy test in a silver box. She was going to tell him that night. Instead, at 2 p.m., while she was shopping for the baby's shoes, her phone buzzed with his text. I'm leaving you. I've found someone who actually makes me happy. Don't try to contact me. Lawyers will be in touch. Julian had stood in the baby store, surrounded by onesies and cribs and futures that would never happen, and felt something inside her shatter so completely she wasn't sure she'd ever be whole again. She'd driven home in a daze, taken the pregnancy test out of her purse, stared at it in the bathroom, while Maxwell's words echoed in her skull. Someone who actually makes me happy. As if 4 years of marriage meant nothing. As if she'd been an inconvenience he was finally shedding. The legal email came an hour later. Cold. Professional. Generous settlement offered, as if money could compensate for abandonment. Julianne had spent that night on the bathroom floor, crying until she couldn't breathe, one hand on her stomach protecting a baby who would never know their father. But when dawn came, something in her had calcified. The grief transformed into something harder, clearer. Maxwell had discarded her like she was nothing. He was about to learn exactly what nothing felt like. Present day, the day after the text. Julianne sat in David Morrison's law office, her best attorney and one of the few people who knew her real financial position. How much does Maxwell actually own of Sterling Global? David asked, pulling up documents on his screen. On paper? Everything. In reality. Julianne smiled without humor. Nothing. I've been funding his expansion for 3 years through Harper Equity Holdings. Every major deal he's closed, every acquisition, every international office. I provided the capital through Shell Investments. David whistled low. He has no idea? He thinks I'm a housewife with a trust fund. He doesn't know Harper Equity exists. Doesn't know I built it from my inheritance and turned 20 million into 300 million. She leaned forward. My grandfather taught me to never put all my eggs in one basket. So I invested in Maxwell, yes. But I controlled the shares through intermediaries. Smart. Necessary, apparently. Julianne's voice was bitter. What are my options? David pulled up a spreadsheet. You own 60% of Sterling Global through various holdings. Maxwell owns 40%. If you pull your capital and exercise your shareholder rights, you can force a restructuring, or a sale, or dissolution. You want to destroy the company? I want him to understand what he's lost. Julianne placed both hands on David's desk. He's in Paris right now, marrying his mistress. He thinks he's won. Thinks he gets to have his affair and his empire, and I'll just disappear quietly with whatever settlement he deems generous. What do you want me to do? Freeze all Harper Equity investments in Sterling Global. Immediately. Call on the loans. Exercise our majority shareholder rights to remove Maxwell as CEO. And file a countersuit, not for divorce settlement, but for full company control based on financial malfeasance. David's eyebrows rose. Malfeasance? Julianne pulled out a folder. Maxwell's been moving company funds to personal accounts. Nothing illegal yet, but enough to raise questions. He was planning to hide assets before the divorce. I have the records. How did you? I've had access to everything for years, David. I just never needed to use it before. She stood. Execute everything today. I want Maxwell's wedding celebration interrupted by the news that he's lost everything. Julianne. David's voice was gentle. Are you sure? This is scorched earth. There's no coming back from this. She thought of the pregnancy test hidden in her purse. Of the baby growing inside her that Maxwell didn't know existed. Of 4 years of love discarded in a text message. I'm sure, she said. He wanted to leave me with nothing. Turnabout is fair play. Paris, Maxwell's wedding day. Maxwell Sterling stood in a suite at the Ritz Paris, adjusting his tuxedo and feeling like the luckiest man alive. In 3 hours, he'd marry Vanessa. Beautiful, exciting Vanessa who made him feel young and alive in ways Julianne never had. Julianne was comfortable. Safe. Boring. Vanessa was champagne and fireworks. His phone buzzed. His COO, Richard. Max, we have a problem. Can it wait? I'm getting married in 3 hours. No, it can't wait. Richard's voice was strained. Harper Equity Holdings just froze all their investments in Sterling Global. They're calling in 70 million in loans. Immediately, Maxwell frowned. Who the hell is Harper Equity? I don't know, but they own 60% of our company. And they just filed for emergency restructuring. Max, they're taking control. You've been removed as CEO effective immediately. The room tilted. That's impossible. I own Sterling Global. Apparently you don't. I'm looking at the filing now. Harper Equity has owned majority shares for 3 years. We never knew because they operated through intermediaries. Who owns Harper Equity? Maxwell's voice was dangerous now. A pause. According to public records, Julianne Harper. The phone slipped from Maxwell's hand. Julianne, his quiet, boring, soon-to-be ex-wife, owned his entire company, and she'd just taken it all back. Paris, 3 hours later. Maxwell didn't get married that day. Instead, he spent his wedding day on frantic phone calls with lawyers, accountants, and board members, watching his empire collapse in real time from a hotel suite that suddenly felt obscenely expensive. Vanessa had been furious. What do you mean we're not getting married? She'd stood in her custom Vera Wang gown, makeup perfect, fury radiating from every pore. There are 200 people downstairs. I just lost my company, Vanessa. So? You're still rich, aren't you? Maxwell had looked at her, really looked, and saw what he'd been too infatuated to notice before. the calculation in her eyes. The way her concern wasn't about him, but about what he represented. "I don't know what I am anymore," he'd said honestly. "Well, figure it out fast, because I didn't leave my life in New York to marry someone who's broke." She'd grabbed her phone. "I'm calling my publicist. We'll say it's postponed for business reasons. Vanessa, fix this, Maxwell. Whatever your boring little wife did, fix it." His boring little wife who apparently owned everything he'd thought was his. By evening, the financial picture was clear and catastrophic. Harper Equity owned 60% of Sterling Global through shell companies Maxwell had unknowingly been reporting to for 3 years. Every major expansion, every acquisition, every success he'd celebrated, Julianne had funded it, controlled it, owned it. She'd removed him as CEO, frozen his access to company accounts, called in $70 million in loans he couldn't pay, and filed a lawsuit alleging financial malfeasance, specifically the $3 million he'd moved to personal accounts in preparation for the divorce. Money he'd planned to hide from her. Money that was technically company funds. Money that made him look like he was embezzling. "How bad is it?" Maxwell asked his attorney, Marcus, over video call. "Catastrophic. You're personally liable for the misappropriated funds. Your personal assets are being frozen pending investigation. And Julianne's team is pushing for criminal charges unless you agree to her terms." "What terms?" "Complete surrender of all Sterling Global shares. Full financial disclosure. And you pay back the $3 million plus penalties." Marcus paused. "Maxwell, she has you cornered. She has the evidence, the shares, and the moral high ground. You moved company money to hide it from her in the divorce. That's fraud. I was protecting my assets. Assets that weren't legally yours to protect. Sterling Global is majority owned by her. You were essentially stealing from your own company's majority shareholder." Maxwell's head spun. "What are my options? Agree to her terms or go to prison for fraud. Those are your options." The call ended. Maxwell sat in the dark hotel room, the sounds of Paris nightlife filtering through the windows, and felt the full weight of his choices crushing him. He'd left his wife for another woman, and that wife had just destroyed him. New York, Julianne's war room. Julianne sat in Harper Equity's headquarters, a sleek office in Tribeca Maxwell had never visited, never knew existed, surrounded by her real team. David Morrison, her attorney. Sarah Kim, her CFO. Robert Torres, her head of acquisitions. "Maxwell's lawyer is requesting a meeting," David said. "He wants to negotiate terms." "What are our terms?" Sarah asked. Julianne looked at the financial reports spread before her. Sterling Global was worth $400 million. Maxwell had built it from nothing, or so he'd thought. In reality, Julianne's capital injections had fueled every growth phase. He surrenders all shares, pays back the $3 million plus 20% penalty, and he signs a non-compete for 5 years. Julianne's voice was steady. "He doesn't get to take my money and build a competitor." "That's aggressive," Robert said carefully. "He left me while I was pregnant." Julianne's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, still flat at 8 weeks. "Send me a text message. Married another woman in Paris. Aggressive is the least he deserves. Are you going to tell him?" Sarah asked gently. "About the baby?" "No, Julianne. He made his choice, Sarah. He doesn't get to know about this child. This baby deserves a father who chooses them." Maxwell chose Vanessa. The room fell silent. "Execute the terms," Julianne said finally. "Give Maxwell 48 hours to respond. After that, we proceed with criminal charges." Paris, the unraveling. Vanessa left him on day 2. Maxwell had been trying to explain the financial situation, how they'd need to postpone the wedding indefinitely, how his assets were frozen, how everything was complicated, when she'd cut him off. "Let me get this straight. You're broke. Your company is gone. And your ex-wife is suing you. Soon-to-be ex-wife. The divorce isn't final yet. Because you've been too busy planning our wedding to finalize it." Vanessa's voice was shrill. "God, Maxwell, you told me she was some nobody housewife. You said she'd take the settlement and disappear. I thought she would. You thought wrong." Vanessa grabbed her suitcase, started throwing in clothes. "I didn't sign up for this. I signed up for penthouses and yacht parties and a man who had his life together." "Vanessa, wait. We can figure this out." "There's nothing to figure out. You're a disaster. And I'm not going down with your ship." She zipped her bag with finality. "Lose my number, Maxwell. This was fun while it lasted. She walked out without looking back. Maxwell stood in the hotel room, the honeymoon suite he'd booked for a wedding that never happened, and laughed. It was a hollow, broken sound. He'd lost his wife, his company, his mistress, his entire life, all in 48 hours. His phone buzzed. Marcus, his attorney. We need to accept Julianne's terms. If we don't, she's filing criminal charges tomorrow. What are the terms again? You surrender all Sterling Global shares. Pay back $3.6 million. Sign a 5-year non-compete. And you walk away with nothing except your personal assets, which at this point is about $200,000, and your car. Maxwell had started the week as a billionaire CEO about to marry the woman he loved. He was ending it with less money than a mid-level manager and no prospects. Do it, he said. Accept her terms. Maxwell, just do it. I have nothing left to fight with. New York, 1 week later. Julianne signed the final papers transferring full ownership of Sterling Global to Harper Equity Holdings. Maxwell had surrendered, paid back the money, signed the non-compete. It was over. She should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, she felt empty. Are you okay? David asked, watching her stare at the documents. I'm pregnant and alone, Julianne said quietly. My husband chose another woman over me. I just destroyed his entire life. And I don't feel any better than I did when this started. Revenge rarely feels as good as we hope. This wasn't revenge. This was survival. She placed a hand on her stomach. I have a baby coming. I needed to protect us. You did. Harper Equity is worth $600 million now, with Sterling Global fully integrated. You're set for life. So is your child. Money isn't the same as family. David was quiet for a moment. Have you heard from Maxwell? He sent one email. Asked if we could talk. I deleted it. Are you going to tell him? About the baby? Julianne looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere in this city, Maxwell was picking up the pieces of his shattered life, learning what it felt like to lose everything. Part of her, a small, stubborn part, still remembered the man she'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. The ambitious but kind entrepreneur who'd brought her coffee during late-night work sessions, who'd proposed under the stars, who'd promised forever. But that man had abandoned her when she needed him most. No, she said finally. He doesn't deserve to know. He made his choice. Maxwell's studio apartment, Queens. Maxwell's new reality was a 400-square-foot studio in Queens with thin walls and a radiator that clanked like a dying machine. From penthouse to this. From CEO to unemployed. From married to whatever he was now. The divorce papers had arrived that morning. Julianne was asking for nothing. Didn't need to, since she'd already taken everything that mattered. He signed them with a hand that trembled. 7 years together. For years married. Ended with his signature on a line. Maxwell's phone rang. His mother. Is it true? Catherine Sterling's voice was ice. Did you really lose the company to that woman? Her name is Julianne, mother. And yes, it's true. How could you be so stupid? We told you to get a prenuptial agreement. We had one. Didn't matter. She didn't own the company when we married. She bought in afterwards, quietly. Maxwell laughed bitterly. Turns out my wife was smarter than all of us. Your father is furious. The family is humiliated. And that girl you were running around with, Vanessa, she's already dating a tech CEO. Did you see the photos? He had. Vanessa at some gala, draped over a man 20 years older with 3 times Maxwell's former net worth. I have to go, mother. Maxwell, you need to fix this. Groveled to Julianne. Get the company back. There's nothing to get back. It was always hers. I just didn't know it. He hung up. The studio apartment felt like a prison. But maybe that's what he deserved. He'd traded a woman who loved him for one who loved his money. Had abandoned his wife for passion that evaporated the second his bank account did. He'd been a fool. And now he was paying for it. 3 months later, Julianne's first ultrasound. Julianne lay on the examination table, gel cold on her belly, watching the ultrasound screen. There's the heartbeat, Dr. Patel said, pointing. Strong and healthy. You're about 14 weeks along now. Everything looks perfect. Julianne stared at the tiny form on the screen. Her baby, growing despite everything. Despite abandonment and betrayal and heartbreak. Do you want to know the sex? Dr. Patel asked. Not yet. I want to be surprised. After the appointment, Julianne sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, ultrasound photos on the passenger seat. Her phone had 17 missed calls. Business. Investors. board meetings, and one voicemail from an unknown number. She almost deleted it, but something made her listen. Maxwell's voice, rough and tired. Julianne, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve a second of your time, but I need you to know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. For leaving you. For Vanessa. For being too stupid to see what I had until I lost it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that you deserved so much better than what I gave you. And I hope you're happy. I hope you find someone who sees you the way I should have. Take care of yourself, Jules. The message ended. Julianne sat there, one hand on her belly where her baby, their baby, was growing. Maxwell didn't know he was going to be a father, and she still wasn't sure if she'd ever tell him. Has anyone ever had to rebuild their life from scratch after a devastating betrayal? How did you find the strength? Share your story in the comments. 6 months after Paris, Maxwell's rock bottom. Maxwell found work at a construction company in Brooklyn. Not because he wanted to, because it was the only job that would hire a disgraced ex-CEO with no relevant skills and a non-compete agreement preventing him from working in his own industry. You ever done manual labor? The foreman, Tony Russo, asked during the interview. No. You gonna complain about the hours? The pay? Getting your hands dirty? No. Tony studied him. Saw something in Maxwell's face that looked like genuine desperation. You start Monday. 6 a.m. Don't be late. The work was brutal. Hauling materials. Mixing concrete. 12-hour days in summer heat that left Maxwell's body screaming. His hands blistered, then calloused. His back ached constantly. But something strange happened. For the first time in his life, Maxwell felt honest exhaustion. Earned exhaustion. Every dollar in his paycheck represented actual work, actual value created. Not inherited wealth. Not Julianne's silent investments. Just him and his labor. It was humbling in ways he'd never imagined. You're doing good, Sterling, Tony said after the first month. Thought you'd quit after a week. Rich boys usually do. I'm not rich anymore. Yeah, I read about that. Your wife took everything, huh? My ex-wife. And she didn't take it. It was always hers. I just didn't know. Maxwell wiped sweat from his forehead. I was an idiot. Most men are when it comes to women. Tony handed him a water bottle. The smart ones figure it out before it's too late. The rest of us learn the hard way. Which one are you? Divorced twice. Working on not making it 3. Tony grinned. Jury's still out. The same week, Julianne's baby shower. Julianne's apartment. A beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn she'd bought under her own name. Nothing to do with Maxwell. Was filled with women from her life before and after the marriage. Sarah from Harper Equity. Her college roommate Rebecca. Women from the nonprofit board she sat on. Her mother, who'd flown in from California. No one mentioned Maxwell. You're glowing, Rebecca said, watching Julianne open gifts. Tiny clothes, stuffed animals, a stroller that cost more than Maxwell's monthly rent. I'm sweating. It's August, and I'm 7 months pregnant. Glowing is just a nice word for uncomfortable. But Julianne smiled. Have you thought about names? Her mother asked. For a girl, maybe Emma. For a boy. Julianne paused. I don't know yet. She didn't say. Not Maxwell. Never Maxwell. After the party, after everyone left, Julianne sat in the nursery she'd been preparing. Pale yellow walls. White furniture. A rocking chair by the window. Her phone buzzed. An email from Sterling Global's transition team. Her team now, though she'd appointed a new CEO to run daily operations. The subject line, Maxwell Sterling payment received. $3.6 million plus penalties, paid in full. Julianne opened the email. Maxwell had made his final payment. 3 years of garnished wages, sold assets, everything he had left. He'd paid back every penny. The account was settled. The legal matters closed. They were truly, finally done. Julianne placed both hands on her swollen belly, felt the baby kick against her palms. It's just us, little one, she whispered. And that's okay. We're going to be okay. But that night, alone in her beautiful home with her successful company and her independent life, Julianne cried for the family she'd wanted. For the father her child would never know. For the man Maxwell could have been if he'd just chosen differently. 8 months post-Paris, the chance encounter. Maxwell saw her by accident. He was on the subway heading home from work, covered in concrete dust, when Julianne stepped onto the train at Atlantic Avenue. She was massively pregnant, 8 months at least, wearing a flowing dress that couldn't hide her condition. Maxwell's heart stopped. She hadn't seen him yet, was looking at her phone, one hand absently rubbing her belly. Pregnant. Julianne was pregnant. Maxwell's brain did the math automatically. 8 months. She would have been 2 months along when he left her. Oh God. She'd been pregnant when he sent that text message. When he abandoned her. When he married Vanessa in Paris. She'd been carrying his child, and he'd left her. The train lurched. Julianne looked up, and their eyes met. Her face went white, then red, then carefully, deliberately blank. Maxwell stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. Julianne's hand moved protectively to her belly. She looked away, focused on her phone with laser intensity. The train stopped at the next station. She got off quickly, disappearing into the crowd. Maxwell sat back down heavily, his hands shaking. A baby. She was having his baby, and she'd never told him. That night, Maxwell's studio. Maxwell sat on his second-hand couch, staring at nothing. Julianne was pregnant with his child. Had been pregnant when he left her. The cruelty of it hit him like a physical blow. She'd been going through morning sickness while he was in Milan with Vanessa. Had been discovering she was pregnant while he was planning his Paris wedding. Had been alone and terrified while he was texting another woman about how alive she made him feel. He'd abandoned his pregnant wife. What kind of monster did that? His phone was in his hand before he could think better of it. He called her number, the one he'd been blocked from for 8 months. It rang. Once. Twice. Hello. Julianne's voice was cold as winter. Jules, I saw you. On the subway. You're pregnant. Silence. How far along are you? He asked, though he already knew. That's none of your business, Maxwell. Is it mine? Is the baby mine? The baby is mine, Julianne said, her voice sharp as glass. I'm raising this child alone. You made your choice 8 months ago. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You didn't care. You sent me a text message saying you were leaving and never looked back. Her voice cracked. I was 8 weeks pregnant, Maxwell. 8 weeks. And you discarded me like I was nothing. Julianne, please. Don't you dare ask me for anything. You want it out? You're out. This baby doesn't need a father who abandons ship the second things get complicated. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't raise a child. Sorry doesn't pay for college. Sorry doesn't explain to a kid why their father chose another woman over their mother. She was crying now, he could hear it. You don't get to be sorry and have it fix everything. Let me help. Financially, I can. I don't need your money, Maxwell. I never did. That was the whole point. I don't need anything from you. I never have. But the baby has me. That's enough. What if it's not? What if? Goodbye, Maxwell. She hung up. Maxwell tried calling back. Blocked. Tried texting. Blocked. He sat in his tiny studio apartment, surrounded by the ruins of his life, and understood with crystal clarity what he'd done. He hadn't just left his wife. He'd abandoned his child before they were even born. 1 week later, Julianne's crisis. The contractions started at 2 a.m. Julianne woke gasping, hand clutching her belly, and knew immediately something was wrong. She was only 36 weeks, too early. She called 911, hands shaking. I'm pregnant, 36 weeks, having contractions every 5 minutes. I'm alone. I need help. The ambulance came quickly. Hospital. Monitors. Doctors with serious faces. Preeclampsia, Dr. Patel explained. Your blood pressure is dangerously high. We need to deliver the baby today. Emergency C-section. Is the baby okay? Julianne's voice was small, terrified. The baby will be fine. For weeks early, but viable. But you, Julianne, we need to act now. This is serious. Sarah arrived just as they were prepping Julianne for surgery. Held her hand, promised everything would be okay. Do you want me to call anyone? Sarah asked carefully. They both knew who she meant. No, Julianne said. Just stay with me. I'm not going anywhere. Maxwell's construction site, same day. Maxwell was mixing concrete when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Is this Maxwell Sterling? Yes. Who's this? This is Mount Sinai Hospital. You're listed as emergency contact for Julianne Harper. She's in surgery. The phone slipped from Maxwell's hand. Tony caught it. Hello? This is Tony Russo. I'm with Maxwell. What's happening? Maxwell couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Tony listened, his face growing serious. Understood. We'll be right there. He hung up. Looked at Maxwell. Your wife. Ex-wife. Your wife is having an emergency C-section. Something about high blood pressure. They said she listed you as emergency contact and Maxwell was already running. He didn't change out of his concrete-covered work clothes. Didn't grab his jacket. Just ran to the nearest subway, Tony shouting behind him that he'd cover his shift. Julianne was in surgery. The baby was coming early. And he'd been listed as emergency contact, which meant despite everything, some part of her had still considered him family. Mount Sinai Hospital, 3 hours later. Maxwell burst into the maternity ward looking like he'd been in a war, covered in dust, wild-eyed, terrified. Julian Harper, he gasped at the nurse's station. She's in surgery. I'm the father. Room 407. She's in recovery. The baby is in NICU. Maxwell ran. Room 407 was quiet, dim. Sarah sat in a chair beside Julianne's bed, looking exhausted. She stood when she saw Maxwell, positioning herself between him and Julianne like a guard. What are you doing here? The hospital called. They said she was in surgery. Is she okay? Is the baby? The baby is fine. A girl. 5 pounds, 3 ounces. She's in NICU for observation, but healthy. Sarah's voice was cold. Julianne almost died. Maxwell. Preeclampsia. Her blood pressure was 180/120. They had to do an emergency C-section. Maxwell's knees went weak. He grabbed the doorframe for support. Can I see her? Please. She doesn't want to see you. Sarah, please. I just need to know she's okay. Before Sarah could respond, Julianne's voice came from the bed, weak and exhausted. Let him in. Sarah looked torn. Are you sure? 5 minutes. Then he leaves. Sarah stepped aside reluctantly. I'll be right outside. Maxwell approached the bed like he was approaching something sacred and terrifying. Julianne looked pale, exhausted, but alive. Beautifully, miraculously alive. You came, she said quietly. They called. Said you were in surgery. I thought, his voice broke. I thought I'd lost you. You lost me 8 months ago, Maxwell. You just didn't notice. I know. God, Jules, I know. He stood at the edge of the bed, not daring to come closer. But I saw you on the subway. Saw you were pregnant. And I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd done. How I left you when you needed me most. I had morning sickness the day you sent that text, Julianne said, her voice distant. I was holding a pregnancy test, planning how to tell you, and you were texting me that you'd found someone else. Maxwell closed his eyes against the pain. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. I know, but I need you to know. I've been working construction for 6 months, living in a studio in Queens. I paid back every penny I owed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking to be in your life. I just need you to know that I understand what I did. And I'm trying to become someone different. Someone better. Julianne studied him. Saw the calluses on his hands. The concrete dust in his hair. The exhaustion in his eyes that looked like honest work. We have a daughter, she said finally. Can I see her? Please. After you leave here, ask the nurse for NICU. Tell them you're Emma's father. They'll let you look through the window. But Maxwell. Her voice hardened. Looking is all you get right now. I'm not ready for more than that. Okay. And this doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean forgiveness or second chances, or, I know. You broke my heart. You left me when I was pregnant and alone. You chose another woman over our family. I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Julianne's eyes filled with tears. I hate that I listed you as emergency contact. I hate that part of me still wanted you here. I'm glad you did. Even if it's just for today. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Time's up. Maxwell nodded. Started to leave. Paused at the door. What did you name her? Emma. Julianne said softly. Emma Rose. It's beautiful. She's beautiful. You're both beautiful. His voice cracked. Thank you for letting me know she exists. Even if I don't deserve it. He left before Julianne could see him cry. NICU, 10 minutes later. Maxwell stood at the NICU window, staring at the tiny baby in the incubator labeled Baby Girl Harper. Emma Rose. His daughter. She was impossibly small, with dark hair and features he couldn't quite make out through the plastic. But she was alive. Perfect. A miracle. A nurse approached. Are you the father? Yes. But I don't have any rights. The mother and I are divorced. I just wanted to see her. The nurse's expression softened. She's doing great. Should be able to leave NICU in a day or two. Mom did well in surgery too. Thank you, Maxwell whispered. He stood there for an hour, watching his daughter sleep, making silent promises he had no right to make. I'll be better. I'll earn my way back. I'll become someone worthy of you. Even if it took years. Even if Julian never forgave him. He'd spend the rest of his life trying to deserve this second chance he'd almost destroyed before it began. ACT 3 complete. 1,803 words. Total so far, 5 for 100 words. Have you ever had to prove yourself to someone you hurt? Or watch someone genuinely transform? Drop your story in the comments. Should I continue with ACT 4, Climax? This is where Maxwell's transformation is tested, where Julian must decide between the safety of her walls and the risk of forgiveness, and where they confront the hardest question. Can someone who destroyed everything earn the right to rebuild it? Reply continue, and I'll write Act 4. 3 months after Emma's birth, Maxwell had become a ghost in his daughter's life. Not by choice, by necessity, by Julianne's boundaries, which he respected absolutely. Every week, he sent a check, half his construction paycheck, to Julianne's address. She never cashed them. They piled up, returned with refused stamped across them. Every week, he wrote a letter to Emma. Short messages about his day, his hopes, his regrets. He saved them in a box in his studio, unsure if she'd ever read them, but unable to stop writing. He didn't call, didn't show up unannounced, didn't push. He destroyed his family once. He wouldn't make demands now. But then, on a cold November morning, his phone rang. Sarah's number. Maxwell? It's Sarah. Don't panic, but Julianne's in the hospital again. Her blood pressure spiked. Emma's fine. She's with me. But Julian asked if you could come. Maxwell was out the door before Sarah finished the sentence. Mount Sinai Hospital, room 512. Julianne looked smaller in the hospital bed than Maxwell remembered. Pale, exhausted, and 4 in her arm, monitors beeping softly. She turned when he entered, and something in her expression cracked. You came. You called. I'll always come. Maxwell stood at the foot of the bed, maintaining distance. What happened? Postpartum preeclampsia. Apparently, it can come back months after delivery. My blood pressure was 190/130. Dr. Patel admitted me for observation. She looked down at her hands. I was alone with Emma. Started feeling dizzy. Called 911. And I realized, if something happened to me, who would take care of her? Sarah. Sarah's amazing. But she's not family. And Emma deserves family. Julianne's eyes met his. I called you because despite everything, you're her father. And she deserves to know you. Even if I'm not ready to forgive you yet. Maxwell's throat tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm tired, Maxwell. Tired of being angry. Tired of doing this alone. Tired of pretending you don't exist when Emma has your eyes and your stubborn chin. She smiled weakly. Dr. Patel asked about my support system. And I realized I don't have one. Not really. I have employees. Friends. But no partner. No one to share the 3 a.m. feedings and the fear that I'm doing everything wrong. Jules. Let me finish. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying we're getting back together. I'm saying, maybe we need to talk. Really talk. About what co-parenting could look like. About whether there's any way forward that doesn't involve you being a stranger to your own daughter. Maxwell felt something crack open in his chest. Hope. Terrifying, fragile hope. I don't deserve this, he whispered. No, you don't. But Emma deserves a father. And I can't keep her from you just because I'm hurt. That's not fair to her. What do you need from me? Honesty. Consistency. Proof that you've actually changed and aren't just performing until you get bored again. Julianne's voice was firm despite her exhaustion. I need to know that if I let you into Emma's life, you won't abandon her the way you abandoned me. I won't. I swear on everything I am. Words are easy, Maxwell. I need to see it. Feel it. Trust it. And I don't trust you yet. How do I earn that trust back? I don't know. But if you're willing to try. She paused. When I get out of here tomorrow, come meet your daughter properly. Not through NICU glass. Actually hold her. Be her father. And we'll see if you can handle the reality of a screaming baby at 3 a.m. before we talk about anything more. Maxwell's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. God. Jules, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Babies are exhausting. You might run screaming. I won't run. Not this time. Never again. 2 days later, Julianne's brownstone. Maxwell stood on the steps of Julianne's Brooklyn brownstone, more nervous than he'd been for any business meeting in his former life. He held a small stuffed giraffe, soft, nothing that could hurt a baby, and his heart hammered against his ribs. Julianne opened the door. She looked better, color back in her cheeks. but tired. The exhaustion of new motherhood written in every line of her body. You came. I said I would. She stepped aside. Let him in. The brownstone was beautiful. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, filled with light. Nothing like the sterile penthouse they'd shared. This felt like a home. She's in the nursery. She just woke up from a nap, so she'll be alert. But fussy. She's going through a growth spurt. Maxwell followed Julianne upstairs, his palms sweating. The nursery was painted soft yellow with white furniture. A rocking chair by the window. And in the crib, a tiny baby with dark hair and eyes that were startlingly, unmistakably his. Emma. You can pick her up, Julianne said softly. She won't break. Maxwell approached the crib like it held something sacred. He'd seen Emma through NICU glass. But this was different. He reached down, slid his hands under her small body the way he'd watched in YouTube videos he'd been studying for weeks, and lifted her carefully. Emma blinked up at him, made a small noise. Her tiny hand wrapped around his finger with surprising strength. And Maxwell felt his entire world shift on its axis. Hi, Emma, he whispered. I'm your dad. I'm sorry I wasn't here from the beginning. But I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again. Emma yawned, unimpressed by his promises. Julian laughed softly. She's not much of a talker yet. She's perfect. Maxwell couldn't look away from his daughter. She looks like you. She has your eyes, and your tendency to wake up angry. They stood there in the soft afternoon light, the three of them together for the first time, and something that felt dangerously like family filled the space. Then Emma started crying. She's hungry, Julian said. I need to feed her. You want to watch? Learn. Yes, please. I want to learn everything. That night, the hard conversation. After Emma was fed, changed, and finally sleeping in her bassinet, Julianne and Maxwell sat in the living room with coffee that had gone cold. I need to ask you something, Julian said finally. And I need the truth, Maxwell. Not what you think I want to hear. The truth. Okay. Why did you leave me? The real reason. Not the easy answer about Vanessa being exciting. The actual reason you walked away from our marriage. Maxwell was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw. Because I was scared. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years. Every negative test felt like failure. And instead of talking to you about it, I buried myself in work. Started believing the lie that success could fill the emptiness. He looked at his hands, calloused now, worker's hands. Vanessa appeared right when I was feeling most inadequate. She made me feel powerful, important, like I was enough. And I didn't. You did. But you also challenged me. Called me out when I was being shallow or selfish. Vanessa never did that. She just agreed with everything. It was easier. So you chose easier. I chose cowardice. I chose running instead of fighting for us. Maxwell's eyes met hers. When you got pregnant, if I'd known, I'd like to think I would have made a different choice. But honestly, I don't know. The man I was 8 months ago might have run anyway. Because he was broken and scared and too proud to admit it. And now I've lost everything. Lived in a studio apartment. Worked jobs where nobody cares about my last name or my pedigree. Had to earn every dollar, every meal, every moment of respect. He smiled without humor. Turns out losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it forced me to figure out who I actually am without the money and status. Who are you? Julian asked quietly. I'm a construction worker who writes letters to his daughter every night. I'm a man who takes the subway because he can't afford a car. I'm someone who's learning that worth isn't about what you own. It's about who you show up for. He paused. I'm not the man you married, Jules. That man is dead. I'm trying to be someone better. Someone who deserves a second chance with his daughter. And maybe, someday, with you. Julianne's eyes glistened. I loved you so much, Maxwell. You were my whole world. And you destroyed me. I know. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can risk my heart on someone who already shattered it once. I understand. But Emma deserves a father. And despite everything, I believe you're trying to be one. I am. I swear I am. Julianne stood, walked to the window overlooking her quiet Brooklyn street. Here's what I'm proposing. You can see Emma 3 times a week. Supervised visits at first. You'll come here, help with feedings, changings, bedtime. Learn what it actually means to be a parent. Okay. After 3 months, if you're consistent, we'll talk about overnight visits. After 6 months, we'll revisit custody arrangements. And us. Julianne turned to face him. There is no us right now, Maxwell. Maybe there never will be again. But if, and this is a massive if, you prove over time that you've genuinely changed, that you're someone Emma can count on, that you're not going to run the second things get hard, then maybe we can talk about what forgiveness looks like. How long? However long it takes. Months. Years. Maybe forever. Her voice was firm. I'm not putting a timeline on my healing, Maxwell. You don't get to rush my trust. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking for a chance. You're getting one. Don't waste it. Emma's cry pierced the quiet. Julianne moved toward the nursery. Maxwell stood. Can I help? She paused. Looked at him. Really looked. Saw the hope in his eyes. The exhaustion. The genuine desire to be present. Yeah, she said finally. You can help. Together, they walked upstairs to comfort their crying daughter. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was a beginning. And sometimes, that's all second chances need. 6 months later, the turning point. Maxwell had been there 3 times a week for 6 months. Every visit, he showed up exactly on time. Brought groceries when Julianne was running low. Changed diapers without complaining. Walked Emma around the living room at 3 a.m. when she wouldn't sleep, singing off-key lullabies that somehow worked. He'd missed exactly 0 visits. Not for work. Not for exhaustion. Not for anything. Julianne had started trusting him with overnight visits. Every Saturday, Maxwell took Emma to his small apartment, now slightly bigger, a 1-bedroom he'd saved for, and returned her Sunday evening, exhausted and covered in baby spit-up and happier than she'd ever seen him. She loves you, Julianne said one Sunday, watching Maxwell reluctantly hand Emma back. The feeling's mutual. He kissed Emma's forehead. See you Wednesday, princess. After he left, Julianne's mother, visiting for the week, gave her daughter a knowing look. What? Julianne asked. You're falling for him again. I am not. Sweetheart, you watch him with Emma like he hung the moon, and he looks at both of you like you're his entire world. That doesn't mean. It means you need to decide if you're going to forgive him or not. Because keeping him at arm's length forever isn't fair to anyone. Not you, not him, and not Emma. Julianne looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her arms. I don't know if I can forgive what he did, Mom. He left me. Pregnant. Alone. I know, baby. And you have every right to never forgive him. But from what I've seen these past few days, that man would walk through fire for you and Emma. He's not the same person who left. People don't change. Some do. If the pain is bad enough and the love is strong enough. Her mother squeezed her hand. Only you can decide if he's earned a second chance. But make sure you're deciding based on who he is now, not who he was then. That night, after her mother went to bed, Julianne pulled out the box of checks Maxwell had sent over the past 9 months. All refused. All returned. Except she'd kept them. Underneath the checks were the letters. Dozens of them. Letters Maxwell had written to Emma and hand-delivered, asking Julianne to save them for when Emma was older. Julianne opened one at random. Dear Emma, you're 3 months old today. Your mom sent me a video of you laughing for the first time. I've watched it 200 times. Your laugh sounds like hope. I'm sorry I wasn't there from the beginning. Sorry I was too broken to see how lucky I was. But I'm here now, and I'm going to spend every day proving I deserve to be your dad. I love you more than I knew was possible. Dad. Julianne read letter after letter. Watched Maxwell's transformation documented in his own words. Saw him go from desperate apologies to genuine growth to simple, honest love. And she made a decision. The next day, Julianne's invitation. I want you to come to dinner. Not a visit with Emma. An actual dinner. With me. Maxwell nearly dropped his phone. What? Dinner. Friday night. I'll cook. We'll talk. Really talk. About what happened, where we are, and whether there's any path forward that isn't just co-parenting. Jules, are you sure? No. I'm terrified. But my mom said something that stuck with me. She said I need to decide if I'm punishing you for who you were or seeing who you've become. Julianne's voice was soft. And I think I'm ready to see who you are now. I'll be there. What can I bring? Just yourself. The real you. Not the CEO you used to be or the construction worker you're performing being. Just Maxwell. Whoever that is now. Okay, he whispered. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This isn't forgiveness, Maxwell. It's just exploration. I'll take it. Friday night arrived cold and clear. Maxwell showed up with flowers, not expensive roses, just simple daisies from the bodega. Wore jeans and a clean shirt. Nothing performative. Just him. Julianne had cooked pasta, his favorite, though she pretended not to remember that. Emma was asleep upstairs, the monitor on the kitchen counter. They ate in careful conversation at first. Then, gradually, the walls came down. "Do you ever regret it?" Julian asked. "Losing everything." Maxwell considered this. "I regret how it happened. I regret hurting you. But losing the company, the money, the status? No, that needed to happen. I was drowning in a life that looked successful but felt empty. Construction work, as crazy as it sounds, saved me, gave me purpose that wasn't about profit margins. Do you miss it? The power? Sometimes. Then I come here, hold Emma, and realize I have more power in making her smile than I ever had in a boardroom." He smiled. "Different kind of power. Better kind. What about Vanessa?" The question hung between them. "I think about her sometimes," Maxwell admitted. "Not because I miss her. Because she was a symptom of how broken I was. I chose passion over partnership, excitement over commitment, and I lost everything that actually mattered." "Did you love her?" "No. I was infatuated with who she made me feel like. But love? Real love." He met Julianne's eyes. "I only ever loved one person, and I destroyed that love through my own selfishness." Julianne's breath caught. "I don't expect you to believe me," Maxwell continued. "I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know, every day for the past 9 months, I've woken up thinking about what I lost. Not the company, not the money. You, Emma, the family I was too stupid to protect. I loved you so much," Julianne whispered. "You were my whole world. I know, and I threw it away. Why should I risk that again? Risk you breaking my heart a second time? You shouldn't. It's not rational. It's not safe." Maxwell reached across the table, didn't take her hand, just placed his near it. "An offering. But if you're asking if I'm capable of hurting you again, yes. I'm human. I'll mess up, disappoint you, fail in small ways, and maybe big ones. But will I ever abandon you again? Will I ever choose someone else over you and Emma? God, no. Never. That man died in Paris when his world collapsed. He doesn't exist anymore." Julianne looked at his hand. Calloused. Real. So different from the manicured hands she'd married. She placed her hand in his. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too. I don't know if I can do this." "We don't have to know. We just have to try." And there, in the quiet kitchen of her Brooklyn brownstone, with their daughter sleeping upstairs and 9 months of devastation and growth between them, Julianne Harper made the hardest choice of her life. She chose to risk her heart one more time. Not because Maxwell deserved it, but because love, real love, isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. Every single day, even when it's terrifying. Weeks after the dinner, the hard work begins. Therapy wasn't romantic. Dr. Andrea Morris didn't coddle them during their 3rd session. "Maxwell, you abandoned your pregnant wife via text message," she said bluntly. "That's not a mistake. That's a choice that reveals profound character flaws you need to own." Maxwell flinched but nodded. "And Julianne," Dr. Morris turned to her, "you're keeping Maxwell at arm's length by making him prove himself endlessly. At some point, you need to decide, are you working toward forgiveness or punishing him indefinitely?" "He deserves to be punished," Julianne said sharply. "Maybe, but is that what you want? A relationship built on punishment? Or actual healing?" Julianne's voice cracked. "I'm terrified of believing he's changed and being wrong, of letting him back in and having him destroy me again." "That's the risk of love," Dr. Morris said gently. "There are no guarantees. The question is, can you live with uncertainty? Or do you need absolute certainty before you risk your heart?" "I want certainty," Julianne whispered. "Life doesn't offer that. Only choices and trust." 3 months later, Emma's first birthday. Maxwell arrived early to Emma's birthday party with a handmade wooden toy chest he'd spent weeks building. "You made this?" Julianne asked, running her hand over the smooth wood with Emma's name painted carefully. "Tony taught me basic carpentry. I wanted to give her something I actually created, not just bought. It's perfect." Through the chaotic party, cake smashing, balloon laughter, overwhelmed tears, Julianne watched Maxwell navigate everything with grace. He cleaned spills without being asked, calmed Emma when she got overwhelmed, fit seamlessly into the life she'd built without him. After everyone left, Maxwell stayed to help clean up. "Thank you for including me today," he said quietly. "She's your daughter. Of course you should be at her birthday. I meant thank you for letting me be part of this. Your life. Your home. After everything I did, you didn't have to give me this chance." Julianne dried her hands, turned to face him. You've shown up. Consistently. For 9 months. You've been exactly where you said you'd be. You've put Emma first. The question is whether it's enough. Is it? I'm starting to think it might be. She stepped closer. I'm tired of being angry. Tired of protecting my heart so carefully that I can't feel anything good anymore. I want to try. Really try. Not just co-parenting, but us. Maxwell's breath caught. Jules. But I have conditions. We keep going to therapy. We take this slowly. We build trust in increments. And if you backslide, if you lie or cheat or choose yourself over this family, we're done. Permanently. I understand. Do you? Because I'm risking everything by letting you back in. Maxwell took her hands carefully. I spent 9 months in hell learning what it means to lose you. I'm not going back there. I'll spend the rest of my life proving it. Okay, Julian whispered. Then let's try. He pulled her into his arms, the first embrace in nearly a year. She fit perfectly, like coming home. I love you, he murmured. I never stopped. I love you too. Even though part of me wishes I didn't. 1 year later, the recommitment. They didn't rush into remarriage. They dated intentionally, twice weekly dinners, weekend park mornings with Emma, therapy every Thursday. There were setbacks. Julianne found an old photo of Vanessa on Maxwell's phone and panicked. Maxwell let her scream, showed her everything without defensiveness. I'm not hiding anything, he'd said. Check my phone, my email, my entire life. I have nothing to hide. Slowly, painfully, Julianne learned to trust again. 6 months in, Maxwell turned down a high-paying corporate job. That world almost destroyed me once. Tony's promoting me to site supervisor. I can be home for Emma's bedtime every night. That's worth more than any corporate salary. Now, 1 year after taking that terrifying risk, they stood in Julianne's brownstone for a small recommitment ceremony. Emma toddled between grandparents. Sarah and Tony talked in the corner. Dr. Morris smiled knowingly. I promise to choose you, Maxwell said, even when it's hard. To be honest when I'm struggling instead of running. To protect this family with everything I am. I promise to trust you, Julianne said through tears, even when it's scary. To give you grace when you're human. To believe in who you've become instead of punishing who you were. Emma grabbed both their hands. Mama, Dada. Everyone laughed through tears. Dr. Morris stood. I pronounce you recommitted partners in life, love, and parenting. Maxwell, you may kiss your wife. Again. He did. And it felt like coming home and starting new all at once. 2 years later, Maxwell painted the nursery blue while Julianne, heavily pregnant with their second child, watched from the doorway. You're nesting, she said. I'm preparing. He crossed to her, placed both hands on her belly. I want it perfect for our son. This time, he'd been there for everything. Every appointment. Every midnight craving. Every moment. Emma ran in with a drawing. Daddy. For baby brother. Maxwell scooped her up. This is beautiful, princess. Should we hang it in his room? Julianne watched them together, felt their son kick, and marveled at the life they'd built from ruins. What are you thinking about? Maxwell asked. I'm thinking that forgiveness is harder than revenge. That rebuilding is harder than destroying. But it's worth it. She smiled. You're worth it. We're worth it. Thank you for believing that when I didn't deserve it. You earned it. Every day, you earned it. 5 years later, Harper Sterling Construction broke ground on its 50th affordable housing project. A company built from Sterling Global's ruins, specializing in homes for families needing second chances. At the site office, Emma did homework while 4-year-old James built with blocks. Mama, how did you and Daddy meet? Emma asked. Julianne looked at Maxwell through the window, covered in dust, laughing with Tony, exactly where he belonged. We met when we were young, fell in love, got married, but then we forgot how to see each other. Daddy made big mistakes, and we almost lost everything. But you didn't. No, because Daddy did something brave. He admitted he was wrong and worked to become better. And I did something brave too. I chose to forgive him. Even though it was scary. Do you still love him? Emma asked. More every day. Even though he messed up? Especially because he messed up. Because he proved that broken things can be fixed if both people choose repair over revenge. Outside, Maxwell caught Julianne's eye through the window. Smiled the smile that was just for her. She smiled back. And in that smile was everything they'd survived. Everything they'd built. Everything they'd chosen. Every single day. Together. Because second chances aren't about pretending the first chance didn't end in ruins. They're about building something new from the rubble. Something stronger. Something real. Something that only exists because two broken people chose to heal together instead of apart. Have you ever given someone a second chance? Or been the one seeking redemption? Share your story in the comments. Your words might help someone else choose healing over bitterness. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.